the genius who exposed Konoha's dark secret. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 51. Experimental subjects cooperating. You're too slow. The sun is setting. What were you doing? Upon Shiraishi's return, Ruri furrowed her brow and asked. I apologize. The medicinal ingredients I needed were quite rare. It took a while to find a place that sells them. Here, this is the natto you wanted. Shiraishi apologized and tossed the bag of natto snacks to Ruri. Ruri took the bag and her expression softened slightly. By the way, if I don't have anything else to do, I'll go back to the lab. There's still a lot of work to be done there. Seeing Ruri still sitting there motionless, Shiraishi lifted his foot and left the room. Having obtained Iain's fresh body data, the remaining work can only be done by himself. The next mission would be coming soon, and they would leave the village again within 2 weeks at the latest. Konoha still had a fierce battle to fight. As one of Konoha's top elite jonin and their Team 5 leader, Hatake Tsukumo couldn't stay in the village for too long. As for the specifics of the upcoming mission, Shiraishi couldn't deduce any useful information from the available intelligence. However, he was certain that the mission's difficulty would be at least A-level. Upon returning to the laboratory, he opened one of the secret doors, revealing a 30-square-meter room with an emergency toilet and shower. This was where the 5 individuals used for human experiments usually resided. The lights inside were always on, so when Shiraishi opened the door, he could clearly see their appearances, causing their bodies to shake unnaturally. One person then walked out consciously in order. Although their spirits had recovered to some extent after a long rest, terrifying memories flooded their minds, and they likely knew what Shiraishi had planned for them next, causing their faces to turn pale. Shiraishi nodded with some satisfaction. That's right. If they cooperated willingly and didn't resist, they would receive rich and nutritious meals as a matter of course, making their lives much better than those of the wandering bloodthirsty criminals outside. After the man walked out, Shiraishi looked at the remaining 4 individuals, took out 2 moderately thick books from his ninja bag, and tossed them in front of them. Read these books when you have nothing to do. Books are a valuable tool for human progress. The 4 prisoners exchanged puzzled glances, wondering what Shiraishi was up to. Shiraishi didn't explain further. The main reason was that these individuals often appeared bored, so he found 2 books for them to read. It would help them pass the time and greatly contribute to their mental recovery. Shiraishi closed the secret door. When he turned around, he noticed that the man who had come out earlier was already lying on the operating table, staring at the ceiling lights with wide-open eyes. If they couldn't resist, they might as well try to enjoy it. After all, they didn't need to worry about food and clothing. Their situation was indeed much better than the chaotic existence outside. Shiraishi-sama, could you give me more anesthesia? The man turned his head and asked Shiraishi in a low voice. Shiraishi didn't know how to respond to the request. However, it didn't align with the experiment's objectives. Excessive use of anesthesia could lead to circulatory failure and cardiac arrest in the human body. Caution was required in both dosage and usage. Don't worry. Based on humanistic principles in conducting experiments, I am responsible for your health and safety. Compared to last time, my experiment has made significant progress, and it shouldn't be as painful. Shiraishi explained patiently. Konoha didn't establish guidelines for human experiments, but Shiraishi always adhered to the ethical principles from his previous life. In conducting human experiments, which were inherently unethical, they couldn't be used haphazardly. To protect the physical well-being of the subjects, advance medical development, and adhere to the principles of science, Shiraishi followed these guidelines. When a subject showed signs of mental breakdown, the experiment was promptly halted, and another subject would be substituted. Furthermore, successful implementation of magic could contribute to medical advancements. The experiment itself aligned with scientific principles. With a complete theoretical foundation and accumulated animal cases, the risks were relatively low. Starting with human subjects from the beginning wasn't because progress was slow, it was a violation of the first principle of informed consent from the parties involved. However, in these war-torn years, Shiraishi felt he could take liberties and didn't need to differentiate so meticulously. Shiraishi picked up a syringe filled with liquid natural energy and began injecting it into the subject. To avoid complications, he adjusted the injection of natural energy based on the subject's physical qualities, including their maximum chakra capacity, to ensure a neutralizing reaction and the creation of complete fairy chakra within the subject's body. After achieving the senjutsu chakra, it was necessary to carefully observe the experiment subject's reaction to the chakra, the duration of the reaction, and whether it caused damage to various organs in the human body. He already knew that practicing Sage Mode was fraught with unknown dangers when he performed combination of Chakra and Senjutsu Chakra on animals. It was precisely because of these unknowns that he needed to proceed with caution and not take overly ambitious steps. In the experiment, the entire body of the subject was connected to delicate wires, with the wire terminals linked to a large computer that could promptly record and accurately store various physical data of the subject in its database. Thus, the experimental subject was placed on the operating table, and the computer continuously recorded the data. Shiraishi initiated another experiment, the breaking of the caged bird curse. The question of whether chakra would perish after being depleted had been weighing on Shiraishi's mind. However, such an experiment couldn't be conducted directly on a human body, so he started with animals. Similar to humans, animals in nature also possess chakra within their bodies. To this end, Shiraishi prepared 50 guinea pigs for the chakra depletion experiment. If this experiment succeeded, it would greatly aid in deciphering the caged bird curse. Even if a perfect solution couldn't be found, it would at least provide a reasonable approach. An hour later, the experiment involving the neutralization of natural energy and ordinary chakra had concluded for the subject. The results of the experiment showed some improvement compared to the previous attempt. At this rate, there was a high probability that Shiraishi would discover a system of immortality suitable for human cultivation before leaving Konoha. He disconnected the wires from the subject and allowed them to return to the room behind the secret door. Before leaving, the subject took 2 books from the shelf beside them and glanced at Shiraishi, curious about his reaction. Shiraishi simply turned a blind eye and remained silent. The shelves contained various books, including history, geography, chemistry, and biology, but no important research materials were among them. Learning was a vital process for enlightening human beings. With their enthusiasm for learning, Shiraishi was naturally willing to support them. However, when the time came to be a test subject, it was important to fulfill that role. Shiraishi looked at the guinea pig on the testing bench that had perished due to chakra depletion and shook his head. The experiment had failed. Although he had tried to save the lives of these mice, the results were still unsatisfactory. Seeing that it was nearly time, Shiraishi was about to leave the laboratory when a sudden chill gripped his throat, causing his entire body to tense. A sharp kunai was positioned just in front of Shiraishi's throat, poised to end his life with a single stroke. Episode 52. The question of offense or defense. What are you doing, Ruri? Is something wrong? Shiraishi asked, noticing Ruri's silent presence behind him and wearing a relieved smile. Speaking of which, even standing silently behind him, Shiraishi sensed that Ruri's strength had significantly increased. The Uchiha bloodline truly was formidable, and Ruri, who effortlessly controlled its power, was even more formidable. Ruri didn't remove the kunai from Shiraishi's throat. Her voice came close to his ear, resonating in the dimly lit laboratory. You haven't been hiding anything from me, have you? Eh? Why do you say that? Shiraishi was momentarily taken aback, scratching his head in confusion. He appeared genuinely puzzled by Ruri's statement. Your behavior today was a bit strange. Usually, when you go out to buy something, you just leave without saying a word. But today, you came to say goodbye before leaving. So, I've been wondering if you're hiding something from me. Ruri's expression remained casual, her eyes as piercing as ever, giving the impression that nothing could be concealed from them. Ruri, when did you develop a sense of humor? It was just a spontaneous gesture, Shiraishi replied, trying to convince himself as well. Just a spontaneous gesture that happens once every few years? That's quite coincidental. So, I've been thinking, are you secretly meeting someone behind my back? You've misunderstood me. You should know the nature of my relationships, right? Yes, but precisely because of that, something feels off. I have a strange sensation that someone else's scent is on you, and it's a woman's scent, Ruri said, even taking a few sniffs at Shiraishi's shoulder. You don't have the Inuzuka clan's sense of smell. Your surname is Uchiha. Shiraishi couldn't help but complain internally. Just as Shiraishi was about to respond, Ruri removed the kunai from his neck, and her tone was no longer as cold as before. But forget it, whoever you meet is none of my business, is it? I'm not yours. As Ruri spoke, a faint smile formed at the corner of her mouth, intensifying Shiraishi's sense of unease. Normally, Ruri wasn't one to make jokes. Well, you're overthinking it. You really didn't meet someone secretly? Despite claiming not to care, it was evident that Ruri was deeply concerned. His eyes grew darker, and a hint of murderous intent began to emanate from him. Of course not. Don't you know who I am? I never lie, Shiraishi responded, looking directly into Ruri's eyes with utmost sincerity. Then how do you explain this photo? Ruri presented a photograph that captured Shiraishi and Ain together. The photo was taken right in front of Shiraishi's former residence as they were about to enter together. Shiraishi found himself tongue-tied, unable to explain clearly, his mind thrown into a state of panic, freezing his thoughts. You were too careless, really. You were caught so easily by me. If it were someone else, your secret would have been exposed long ago. At that time, you wouldn't have received mere interrogation, but a severe punishment from my clan in the mountains. Ruri sighed, her disappointment evident. Huh? No scolding, no reprimanding, and no anger? This didn't seem right. Then, what does it mean? Shiraishi asked, his expression one of utter confusion. Though you have many merits, you are still naive in several other ways. You don't fully grasp the importance of Sage Mode. 2 or 3 years ago, while you were conducting your research on Sage Mode, I had my parents prepare 200 wild cats of various breeds, smuggling them into Konoha through official channels to act as my spies. Since they were ordinary cats, not ninja cats, and there were plenty of stray and domestic cats in Konoha, even the ANBU hadn't detected anything amiss. After all, these cats were brought into Konoha in batches over several months through regular channels. Moreover, they roamed in areas far from Konoha's core, behaving like ordinary cats. Even if they transmitted information, it was done publicly, without raising any suspicions. Shiraishi remained frozen in place. Observing Shiraishi's almost petrified state, Ruri smiled with satisfaction. But in the process, I accidentally discovered some of your little secrets. Did you think I wouldn't find out about your research on the Hyuga clan's caged bird? Ruri wasn't sure about the exact details of what Shiraishi and Ain had discussed, but she could infer some information from the situation. Well. I'm a bit confused at the moment. So, you already knew? Shiraishi replied, his mind in disarray. About a year ago, it was a little careless, but you and Ain found ways to contact each other. Unless one pays close attention, it wouldn't be easy to detect. It was just a short meeting between friends. In an era of frequent wars, Umbu has limited manpower and no time to focus on you. Umbu typically operates with a staff of 60 to 70 members. One unit is assigned secret missions abroad or gathers crucial intelligence. Another unit remains in the Land of Fire to prevent enemy sabotage and report for additional support if needed. The remaining 2 units patrol the village and monitor dangerous ninjas with evident anti-Konoha sentiments or enemy spies. However, Shiraishi's combat record was mediocre, his performance in the Will of Fire exam was excellent, and he showed no signs of being anti-Konoha. Therefore, there was no reason or motivation to put him under surveillance. Regarding his close association with the Uchiha clan, Konoha didn't pay much attention to it. Although few civilian ninjas had a good relationship with the Uchiha, there were still dozens or even hundreds of individuals who maintained a positive rapport with them, including Jonin and Chunin. After all, the Uchiha were part of the village, and some ninjas held no particular prejudice against them. Instead, they believed that the powerful Uchiha made trustworthy companions on the battlefield, enhancing the team's overall effectiveness. Over time, relationships naturally formed. As a precautionary measure, Ruri had placed 200 cats in Konoha to act as her own spies, cutting off any potential risks and ensuring Shiraishi's safety. When it came to immortality, Ruri couldn't afford to be as careless as Shiraishi. Although Shiraishi believed he had concealed himself well, he now realized that Ruri deserved the credit for that. Should he call her a genius from a prominent ninja family? She flawlessly executed the main plan and implemented effective measures to handle unforeseen circumstances, ensuring there were no leaks. He could anticipate future situations in the ninja world based on his knowledge, as well as from a historical and political perspective, but there would inevitably be some deviations in the details. Ruri exhaled, feeling a sense of relief without understanding why. Shiraishi sighed, smiling wryly. I really can't hide anything from you. You've always been perceptive since you were a child. Years of experience have made you complacent, and you haven't made any progress at all. Remember to be more cautious next time. Now, let's go out for dinner. Ruri stored the kunai in her ninja bag and walked ahead. Ruri, were you actually concerned about me earlier? Shiraishi's laughter echoed from behind. Ruri stopped, turned her head, and stared at Shiraishi with a serious expression. Which eye did you see I used in caring about you? Really? You fool, I'm only interested in immortality. Power is everything. Your actions and achievements are inconsequential. Wake up and focus on your own dreams. After speaking, Ruri turned around, her black hair slightly swaying as she arrogantly walked away. Is that so? I'm quite interested in controlling others. Is that okay? There was no response to his question. Shiraishi helplessly scratched his head. What a chaotic day. But, it shouldn't be a major issue. In other words, next time, could he bring Ayane here for a proper examination of her body? Episode 53. Jiraiya and the New Prophecy. At the training ground, Shiraishi and Ruri engaged in actual combat practice. It had been a while since their last combat practice during the Ninja Academy, and Ruri's strength had rapidly grown during this time, making it challenging for Shiraishi to assess his true abilities. Entering the battle state, Ruri's body naturally exuded a sharp and deadly aura, evidence of his experience in combat and bloodshed. The Sakumo squad had been established for less than half a year, but it had already participated in over 10 battles, both large and small, providing them with extensive combat experience, including direct confrontations with higher-ranked shinobi. Though Shiraishi was primarily known for his medical ninjutsu skills, he had personally faced several ninja in battle, making him less intimidated by Ruri's murderous aura during their duel training. However, Ruri was no easy opponent. Her physical techniques alone felt like a thunderstorm in motion. In an instant, Ruri moved from in front of Shiraishi to behind him, launching a swift leg whip towards his head with lightning speed. Responding quickly, Shiraishi laid down, using his palm as an axis to turn his body in the opposite direction, somersaulting a few times away from Ruri to create a safe distance. He then retrieved a well-made shakuto. Being a ninja with limited chakra, Shiraishi sought to conserve his during battle, using taijutsu to minimize chakra consumption. Furthermore, his body had been permanently strengthened by new drugs derived from natural energy, granting him superior physical abilities compared to ordinary people. A small amount of chakra was enough to enhance his speed and strength in taijutsu, allowing him to quickly defeat opponents with slower reflexes, particularly chunin. When facing jonin, it was more challenging to disrupt their ninjutsu performance. Against a jonin skilled in taijutsu, the outcome depended on various factors, such as the environment, psychological state, tactical arrangement, and the types of taijutsu employed. In the battle with Ruri, Shiraishi found it difficult to interrupt his ninjutsu, as Ruri was proficient in taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu, leaving no clear path to victory. Moreover, Ruri possessed the troublesome bloodline limit, the Sharingan. The training ground became a fierce battleground, and if anyone were watching without sufficient dynamic vision, they would only see a blur of afterimages, followed by metallic screeches before everything went silent. Both Shiraishi and Ruri moved at high speed using pure physical techniques, without the need for teleportation jutsu. The constant use of instant body techniques was a benefit of taijutsu users, but it put significant strain on their physical strength and bodies. Fortunately, both Shiraishi and Ruri had been enhanced by natural energy medicines, giving them remarkable resilience and endurance in high-speed battles. This was why Ruri had managed to endure during his first mission, even against 2 or more jonin. After a prolonged battle, Shiraishi's chakra was depleted, and he was catching his breath. Observing this, Ruri stopped and twirled his fingers in a circle before putting away his kunai, concluding the intense fight. Ruri preferred direct frontal attacks using taijutsu and ninjutsu over relying on illusions. To him, this method of fighting was more refreshing and straightforward, allowing him to fully experience the essence of battle. You didn't last long. Well, I don't have the natural chakra reserves of SN Uchiha. Especially after awakening the Sharingan, and Uchiha had an abundant supply of chakra in regular battles. But I'll be practicing with natural energy next, which should improve my situation. Isn't that already done? I experimented with it, but I haven't actively absorbed natural energy. Now that the risks are minimal, I plan to use medicine to assist me in grasping the feeling of absorbing natural energy. If the risks are low, I'd like to try it too. I can't let you have all the fun. Ruri also had a strong desire to master natural energy. Natural energy was more potent than ordinary chakra, even if it couldn't create senjutsu chakra when fused, it significantly increased physical energy. Once mastered, natural energy meant an endless supply of energy. Natural energy existed all around: water, air, trees. It could be found everywhere in nature, providing a permanent source of energy. Yes, that was my original plan. Shiraishi didn't refuse. In fact, without the support, connections, and location provided by Ruri, he wouldn't have reached his current stage. The power of capital was invincible. If you couldn't get along with anything, money could get you through. Alas. Humans had created the system, but they had become enslaved by it. The world had truly fallen. Are you also going to Ayane's place? Ruri strolled to the table outside the training ground, picked up a wet towel to wipe her face, and suddenly asked this question. Her tone wasn't very cold, but it carried a daunting sense of oppression. Yes, I am. Ayane's Byakugan has been a tremendous help in solving many research problems for me. Shiraishi averted his gaze, feeling guilty. He thought that after Ruri found out about it that day, things could be calmly discussed, but he didn't expect it to be brought up again, making Shiraishi feel somewhat embarrassed. Wait, why am I embarrassed? Isn't it normal for teammates and classmates to help each other? Shiraishi found himself questioning himself again. Perhaps he had overcomplicated the matter. Really? Ruri gazed at the blue sky, stroked her long black hair behind her ear, and turned to leave. Shiraishi stood there, pondering. What does really mean? Women's minds are really hard to comprehend, be it Ayane or Ruri. Their personalities are easy to understand, but sometimes their words leave people puzzled. There's an ancient saying that a woman's heart is like a needle in the depths of the sea. It has truly stood the test of time. Never mind, the most important thing now is to practice natural energy. The grass here is green, birds sing, and the air is filled with the fragrance of flowers. It exudes vibrant life. Towering toadstone statues stand all around, creating a paradise-like atmosphere in this secluded place called Mount Mayaboku. Alongside the Ryuchi Cave and the Shikatsu Forest, it is known as one of the 3 sacred places of the ninja world and a birthplace of ancient fairy techniques. Throughout history, countless powerful ninjas have come to this place seeking to master the art of immortality. Some have become the basis for the toad statues, while others have succeeded in their pursuits, becoming renowned ninjas in various towns. However, with the rise of the ninja village era, the existence of fairy arts is now mainly recorded in the books of major ninja villages. In reality, after the passing of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, fairy arts have become more of a legend in the ninja world, their authenticity uncertain. Up until now, no ninja has mastered fairy arts and shown in the ninja world's conflicts. Boss Fukasaku. A human voice echoes through Mount Mayaboku, a voice that shouldn't belong in one of the 3 sacred places. Dressed in Konoha's Jonin uniform, a forehead protector emblazoned on his head, 2 distinctive red markings beneath his eyes, the young man, aged around 16 or 17, boasts white hair and a face full of youthful energy and confidence. As he arrives, he greets the toad at the entrance to the main hall, deep in the mountains. This toad, waiting in front of the hall, is draped in a gray robe, possesses green skin, and stands about the height of a human child. Yet, despite its appearance, it exudes an otherworldly aura. Oh, it's Jiraiya boy. You finally come. The old face revealed a kind smile greetings him. This young ninja is none other than Jiraiya, a jonin of Konoha who has formed a summoning contract with Mount Mayaboku, one of the 3 sacred places. He is one of the legendary Sannin, along with Tsunade and Orochimaru, and the current disciple of the 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Jiraiya is a highly skilled jonin who carries on the will of fire. Recently, he completed his 3-year mission in the Land of Rain. After returning to Konoha, he was about to head to the front lines of the Land of Fire when he received a message from Mount Mayaboku, requesting his immediate presence. Boss Fukasaku, what's going on? Why did you call me here at such a critical time? I apologize for summoning you at such a critical moment, but this is the order of the Elder, and I can't disobey. Fukasaku, the sage toad, knew that the ninja world was embroiled in a war, and Konoha was actively involved. As one of Konoha's few high-level jonin, Jiraiya was naturally required to join the front lines and fight against the enemy. Jiraiya had no intention of blaming the sage toad. As one of the 2 great sages in Mount Mayaboku, the sage had personally taught him the sage mode during his time there. While Jiraiya hadn't achieved any significant progress, just gaining insights into such legendary arts was an accomplishment in itself. Considering that it's a legendary art, it's expected to be challenging. Even without mastering the art to the fullest, he had already surpassed many others. Is Shima-sama not here? Jiraiya inquired about the absence of the other sage from Mount Mayaboku, Shima. Shima is the wife of the sage toad and also an incredibly powerful sage in Mount Mayaboku. The 2 were usually inseparable, which prompted Jiraiya to ask about her whereabouts. She went out to buy groceries. I see. So it was the great toad sage who summoned me this time, right? I don't know the specifics either. This is the Elder's order. Follow me inside. Leading the way, Fukasaku guided Jiraiya inside the hall. In the huge and magnificent hall, right in front of the gate on the opposite side, there was an unbelievably large reclining chair, and an equally unbelievably large giant old toad was lying there. It had a big pipe in its mouth, and even when it closed its eyes and dozed off, smoke circles filled the hall, creating an atmosphere of clouds and mist, like a fairyland. Fukasaku quickly jumped to the high platform under the big toad's right hand, clasping his hands together with a solemn expression. Jiraiya stood before the big toad, looking up. No matter when you look at it, this shockingly large toad seemed to be half a step away from death. Geet Elder, I'm here. Jiraiya shouted from below. The old toad didn't react at all and continued blowing smoke rings with a content expression. Fukasaku's awe-inspiring expression quickly faded as he took a deep breath and turned to use Senjutsu Chakra to amplify his voice. Master, Jiraiya has arrived. Only then did the old toad take a casual glance at Fukasaku next to him, then at Jiraiya below, and finally react. Has everyone arrived? My apologies, I almost fell asleep. Great Sage, did you summon me for something specific? The Great Toad Sage is the master of Mount Myaboku, known for his incredible ability to prophesy. He had made prophecies for Jiraiya before, and they had all come true, leaving Jiraiya in awe of the Great Toad Sage's abilities. The ability to see the future made him seem like a true sage. Especially after witnessing certain events in the Land of Rain, Jiraiya became even more convinced of the Great Toad Sage's powers. Regarding this matter, Jiraiya. What's your name again? The Great Toad suddenly asked, embarrassing both Jiraiya and Fukasaku. Master, this is Jiraiya. You made a prophecy for him before, and he's our contractor from Konoha. Fukasaku added reluctantly. Oh, I remember now. Jiraiya, I almost forgot. Seriously, Jiraiya couldn't believe that such a forgetful toad could be considered a sage. Yet, the prophecies he had made forced Jiraiya to believe them. Furthermore, the sage arts of Mount Myaboku was genuine, not a hoax. Jiraiya, I called you here this time for another task. What? Is it about the chosen child again? Jiraiya thought that only a momentous event like that would warrant the Great Toad summoning him in person. It's not directly related to the chosen child. I recently had a very peculiar prophetic dream. A peculiar prophetic dream? Yes, it was so bizarre that I can't even describe it. The Great Toad's tone remained nonchalant, as if half asleep. Then what's so peculiar about it? It foretells an immensely tragic war, one that will wipe out all ninjas from the world. Death and the fires of war will ravage the entire ninja world like never before. Both Jiraiya and Fukasaku were shocked. Even the prophecies about the chosen child had never been this extreme. The chosen child's prophecies had two possible outcomes, destruction or ushering in a new era of peace. As long as the chosen child was properly guided and educated, the chances of peace prevailing in the ninja world were greater. But this time, the prophecy was one of absolute destruction, with no room for choice. That disappear means. Jiraiya couldn't accept such a sudden turn of events, and urgency filled his face. Basically, it means that all the ninjas in the world, including those from Konoha, will vanish from the ninja world. Konoha, gone. Jiraiya was already in a state of panic. When it came to Konoha, he couldn't remain calm. The reason? Is it because of the chosen child? Jiraiya asked anxiously. Considering his 3-year stay in the Land of Rain, Jiraiya believed the kid he trained was the ninja who would bring change to the ninja world. After all, he possessed the Rinnegan, the Eye of the Six Paths, and this reinforced his belief in the Great Toad Sage's prophecy. But he had spent 3 years trying, which should have been enough to guide them, even though this matter has nothing to do with the chosen child. Jiraiya felt relieved upon hearing the Great Toad Immortal's response. Then why is this happening? I don't know. The Great Toad gave a simple answer. What? Jiraiya was also stunned. I don't know? The one who will bring absolute destruction to the current ninja world is now in Konoha. You must investigate it carefully. Please, Jiraiya. In Konoha. Jiraiya looked shocked. How is this possible? The person who will bring destruction to the ninja world is in Konoha? Who could be that terrifying within Konoha? And why hadn't they noticed anything at all? They should be a powerful ninja from Konoha. Great Sage, I. Hoo-hoo. From the giant toad sage's seat, there was only the sound of contented purring. Was the prophecy just now a mere joke or dream? But that seemed unlikely. If it were just an ordinary dream, the Great Toad wouldn't have bothered to summon him. But Konoha is huge, with so many ninjas. How can I find them? Jiraiya sighed in the hall. And he was about to head to the battlefield soon, he wouldn't have time for this. Moreover, he wasn't even sure if the person was male or female. Checking everyone individually would be exhausting. Should he ask Sarutobi-sensei for help? Jiraiya began considering his options. Episode 54. The Toad's Warning. After returning to Konoha, Jiraiya chose not to share the strange dream predicted by the Great Toad Sage with his teacher, Sarutobi. As the Hokage, it was a matter of personal belief whether one chose to believe in it or not. Investigating innocent ninjas without proper reason could lead to chaos within Konoha. Even the Hokage had limitations on inquiring about a ninja's secrets, and certain matters needed to be prioritized. Thus, Jiraiya decided to handle this matter himself. The Toad Sage had warned that the dream prophecy would lead to the disappearance of all ninjas, including those from Konoha. Being a firm supporter of the Will of Fire, Jiraiya couldn't let such a catastrophic event occur. He devised two plans. The first was to find the person mentioned by the Great Toad in Konoha and confront them directly, which was the most direct and effective approach. However, this method did not align with his personal principles, leading him to consider the second plan. The second plan involved finding the prophesied individual and providing them with the right guidance, avoiding the disappearance of Konoha and nurturing an outstanding ninja for the village. Jiraiya's decision would depend on finding the prophesied person. Without locating them, any discussion would be futile. However, Jiraiya couldn't shake off his worry. The Toad's handling of the prophecy dream did not indicate whether the prophesied person could be guided to choose the path of light over darkness. Instead, it directly foretold the disappearance of the ninjas led by Konoha, accompanied by an unprecedented world war. This concern weighed heavily on Jiraiya's mind. If the prophecy couldn't be rectified, it might lead to further destruction. As July drew to a close, the sun's scorching heat intensified. In the courtyard, under the shade of a tree, Shiraishi and Ruri meditated together, practicing the extraction of natural energy from the environment. Natural energy was different from physical and spiritual energy, being more abundant and omnipresent in the air, water, flowers, and trees. Absorbing natural energy could greatly enhance physical and mental capabilities, leading to overall improvement and vitality. In theory, if all ninjas in the world mastered the method of absorbing natural energy, human lifespans would increase by several decades. They would maintain strong energy and vitality even in old age, aging gracefully. However, such an ideal scenario clashed with the reality of the world. Promoting this practice method without a well-organized system could lead to disastrous consequences and an unprecedented war. Thus, the best course of action for Shiraishi was to continue practicing discreetly, ensuring his safety and avoiding unnecessary risks. As Shiraishi focused on extracting natural energy, Ruri suddenly opened her eyes. A cat with orange fluff had jumped onto her shoulder. This seemingly harmless cat moved with unmatched agility, despite its chubby appearance. It opened its mouth, speaking with a voice that leaned towards a neutral tone, neither clearly male nor female. Ruri-sama. The cat addressed Ruri. Is there something wrong? Yu was the most capable of the ninja cats under Ruri's summoning contract. Responsible for managing hundreds of cats in Konoha village and transmitting information, it had come to report something of importance. I don't know why, but the number of toads in Konoha has increased significantly in the last few days. Yu jumped off Ruri's shoulder and looked at her. Toads? Ruri frowned. Yes. I found it strange, so I came to report it. What do you think could be the reason? Having spent almost half a year sending hundreds of cats into Konoha through various formal channels, Ruri had ensured their integration and anonymity. Vigilant from past experiences, she was alert to any anomalies. I'm not sure. Ruri-sama, what should I do next? Ruri considered the sudden increase in toads. It might be a natural occurrence, or someone might be manipulating the situation from behind the scenes, planning something sinister. Regardless, she had to remain vigilant, not overlooking any suspicious signs. When the clan transmit information in the future, have them do it from high buildings, away from any toads. If you notice anything unusual with those toads, let me know immediately. Ruri emphasized the importance of caution at all times, as overlooking the smallest detail could lead to dire consequences. Yes. After you finished his report, it vanished before Ruri's eyes with a swift motion. Soon after, Shiraishi, who had been meditating in the shade, opened his eyes and stood up. How did it go? Ruri inquired. It went well. Now, I feel like I have an endless source of power in my body, and my mental state is much better than usual. I could go without sleep for several days and nights without feeling tired, Shiraishi replied with a satisfied smile. As Shiraishi had expected, natural energy had incredible benefits for living beings. If this method were extended to the entire human population, it could rejuvenate both the body and the spirit, preventing serious diseases and bolstering immunity. Minor ailments would become insignificant, easily overcome by their strong immune systems. Although Shiraishi's body seemed unchanged, it now contained not only chakra but also natural energy absorbed from nature. He didn't realize this through experiments, but now, having extracted natural energy, he felt that it could function as a complete energy system even without chakra. This observation aligned with his expectations. Natural energy could serve as a valuable energy supplement in battle, especially for enhancing physical skills, which had been proven in previous experiments. Further research was needed to determine if separate natural energy could be used to release ninjutsu and illusions. If that were possible, natural energy could become an excellent substitute for chakra. However, in practice, the two energies complemented each other, creating the magical chakra produced by their fusion. Chakra, natural energy, and senjutsu chakra followed this order in their progression. In theory, since natural energy could be used independently to strengthen physical and mental activity, it should logically be possible to use it alone to release ninjutsu and illusions. But theory and practice didn't always align perfectly. Despite this, Shiraishi was satisfied with the results. His fighting style mainly revolved around taijutsu, with medical ninjutsu as his primary technique. Now that he had a superior substitute for chakra in the form of natural energy, he could conserve the limited chakra in his body. He could then utilize natural energy to enhance physical and mental activity, achieving better results than with chakra alone, and showcasing remarkable endurance. Consequently, calling natural energy an energy source that would never be exhausted was not an exaggeration. By the way, he had heard the voice of Feather Fire earlier. Curious, he asked Ruri what had happened. Ruri didn't hide anything and shared that you had come to report that there had been an influx of toads in Konoha recently, prompting them to exercise caution. Toads? Shiraishi tilted his head. It was true that there seemed to be more toads in Konoha village, but it was challenging to notice this without paying special attention. The toads were small and often concealed in dark, damp sewer environments, making them inconspicuous. Ruri explained that Mount Miyaboku, one of the 3 sacred places, was the lair of the toads, and Jiraiya, as a jonin, had a deep connection with them. Do you think these toads might be from Mount Miyaboku? Shiraishi wondered if it was a matter of concern. The records of the Uchiha's classics indicate that the 3 sacred places have a long history and possess incredible power. We can't take it lightly, whether it's the Sannin or any other powerful entities involved, Ruri replied. That's true. I'll keep an eye out, Shiraishi agreed, feeling that discussing such matters felt a bit strange. He understood that Ruri had a complete intelligence system at his disposal, making his involvement unnecessary. Besides, the sudden increase in toads in Konoha was indeed odd, but he decided to stay inconspicuous and avoid unnecessary complications. He had been hiding effectively so far, with Ruri handling most of the aftermath issues. He now lived as an ordinary Konoha chunin. Thus, he resolved to continue this approach. Episode 55. Restarting the meeting with destiny. At the training ground, a powerful impact resonated. Boom. Ruri's fist collided with the ground, causing a deafening explosion. The force created a hole several meters in diameter, with gravel scattering in all directions. The figure was obscured by the sudden rise of sand and dust. As the smoke and dust settled, the pothole remained, revealing shocking cracks that extended deep into the ground. Ruri's fist appeared slightly red, and a dull pain surged through her hand. However, the discomfort quickly dissipated, leaving no trace. The power of natural energy is truly formidable. A mere punch can rival the impact of ninjutsu, Ruri exclaimed. Not only that, she felt an incredible lightness in her body. Replacing chakra with natural energy had a remarkable effect on enhancing her physical abilities. This newfound realization made Ruri develop a profound respect for the power of nature. Comparing herself to the vastness of nature, the natural energy within her seemed insignificant, a mere drop in the sea. Lost in contemplation, Ruri came to the realization that humans, including ninjas, were minuscule in the grand scheme of nature. Survival hinged upon the land and sky, and no matter how powerful one became, they remained bound to this world. Everything was bestowed by nature, and the chakra formed by the human body seemed inconsequential before such immense power. Shiraishi carried a convenient medical kit, prepared to tend to any injuries they might sustain during their practice session. Observing Ruri deeply absorbed in thought after testing her body art, he couldn't help but inquire about her unusual behavior. It's nothing. I just suddenly feel how insignificant human beings are in the face of nature, Ruri replied. This response prompted Shiraishi to burst into laughter. Why are you laughing? Ruri asked, her eyes narrowing, and her fists raised. It's just that it's quite out of character for you to contemplate your place in life like this, Shiraishi explained. Okay, no need to worry. Humans are an integral part of nature, but they are also a prominent group within it. Let's not consider ourselves superior beings surpassing nature. As we gain more knowledge, we realize our limitations, Shiraishi elaborated. Ruri carefully considered Shiraishi's words and found herself in agreement. She had once been ignorant and fearful of everything. But as she grew older and wiser, she began to appreciate the vastness and grandeur of nature. Before such immense power, she felt like a frog at the bottom of a well. Returning to the main topic, Shiraishi asked, okay, how does natural energy feel? Instead of answering, Ruri responded by punching Shiraishi in the face. Shiraishi deftly tilted his head, allowing Ruri's fist to pass by his ear, as if he had precisely calculated the distance. As you said, this feeling is incredibly powerful, far beyond my previous self. With the power of the Sharingan, I should be able to maybe match Teacher Tsukumo's speed and counterattack at the right moment, Ruri stated. The inexhaustible energy flowing through her body invigorated every cell, making her feel more comfortable than ever before. That's right. Next, let's see if natural energy can be directly applied to ninjutsu and genjutsu. Similar to physical energy and spiritual energy, extracting natural energy required specific steps. Drawing natural energy from nature was merely the initial step. Effective assimilation, storage within the body, and identifying the most suitable entry point required continuous experience. The same applied to physical and spiritual energy. The amount and type of food intake, as well as emotional stability, all influenced the extraction of physical and spiritual energy. Theoretically, chakra could be used for taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu. Since natural energy enhanced taijutsu, it should be able to enhance ninjutsu and genjutsu as well. Ruri agreed, curious to know if natural energy could be used for ninjutsu and genjutsu. As she formed hand seals, she focused on balancing the natural energy gathered within her. Fire style, fireball jutsu. The Uchiha clan's signature fire jutsu was far more potent than ordinary fire jutsu. Although Ruri successfully formed the hand seal and gathered natural energy, there was no significant reaction. What's wrong? Shiraishi rushed over, seeing Ruri's slightly unnatural expression and signs of pain. Ruri turned her head, took a breath, and managed to ease her discomfort. My tongue is burning. It appeared the experiment had failed. The natural energy emitted an unimaginable heat within Ruri's mouth, but it didn't materialize into a fireball as expected. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Every time Ruri attempted the fireball jutsu, she had to drink water to relieve the burning sensation in her mouth. The experiment of using natural energy for ninjutsu and genjutsu ended in failure by the evening. A week passed since the failed experiments of using natural energy to replace chakra in releasing ninjutsu and illusions. In summary, natural energy alone couldn't replace chakra for those techniques, its role was limited to enhancing physical and mental abilities. However, Shiraishi didn't consider the experiment a complete failure. He believed that the lack of success might be due to the wrong approach. Unexpectedly, an order arrived from higher-ups, summoning the Team Tsukumo to start an immediate mission on the front line of the Fire Nation battlefield. This forced Shiraishi to abandon his work and neatly hide everything in the laboratory. The experimental equipment was entrusted to the ninja cat, summoned by Ruri. After nearly 20 days of relaxation, the team was finally deployed on a new mission. At the Konoha gate, Shiraishi and Ruri arrived slightly late due to the time consumed hiding the equipment. However, they still had ample time before the scheduled meeting. Upon gathering, the 4 team members exchanged few words. Over the past half a month, their faces had subtly changed. Tsukumo's aura had become more pronounced, indicating a significant improvement in his skills. Tsukumo-sensei, we're all here. We can go, Shiraishi said, ready to proceed. Wait a second, another team will be joining us. They should be arriving soon, Tsukumo replied, with a smile, patiently waiting. The 3 Shiraishi members looked puzzled at the mention of another team. As expected, shortly after, 2 individuals arrived: an adult man with white hair dressed in a Konoha Jonin uniform and a young boy with golden yellow hair. The boy was identified as Minato Namikaze, a fellow student from the ninja school. He had graduated early and become a genin before the 3 of them. Shiraishi greeted Minato, the boy, in a friendly manner, and Minato responded with a smile. Apologizing for the delay, Jiraiya, the white-haired ninja, joined them. He was talkative and cheerful, but also one of the 3 Konoha Sannin and the disciple of the 3rd Hokage. Shiraishi noticed Jiraiya's strong aura, indicating his formidable skills. However, he was preoccupied with the recent appearance of many toads in Konoha, suspecting Jiraiya to be involved. After exchanging a few words, Jiraiya mingled with Tsukumo, engaging in light-hearted conversation. Shiraishi was wary of Jiraiya's persuasive and thick-skinned personality, avoiding giving away any crucial information during their talk. As the team set out towards the frontline battlefield, Jiraiya couldn't help but sigh. He had previously placed some toads in Konoha but wasn't confident that he would find anything significant. Additionally, his focus was on the current mission, leaving him no time to delve into the toad's prophecy. He wondered if there truly was a powerful ninja among Konoha, and who could be the prophesied person to bring war and destruction to the ninja world. However, as many powerful ninjas were closely related to him, he couldn't be certain. Nonetheless, he was convinced of his loyalty to Konoha. The mystery remained: who was this prophesied person, and where could they be hiding within Konoha? Episode 56. Route Ninja. Starting from the entrance of Konoha village at noon, it would take at least 10 hours to travel to the frontline battlefield of the Land of Fire. In the evening, Shiraishi and his group of 6 found a piece of terrain that was easy to defend and difficult to attack and rested for the night, preparing to start the next morning, and then in the evening of the next day, they should be able to reach the Konoha camp on the front line. In this ninja war between Suna and Konoha, the border line is at the border between the Land of River and the Land of Fire. This is a small country that lives between the Land of Fire and the Land of Wind. The north is adjacent to the Land of Rain. There is a certain amount of ninja power in the country, but the organized ninja villages are too weak and not popular. Therefore, in this war, the power of the ninja in the Land of River is almost negligible. The 6 people were resting in an open space, but the desire to communicate with each other is not very strong. After a long journey, everyone was already tired, and they all hoped to have a good rest. Second, the 2 teams were not very familiar with each other. Maybe Jiraiya and Tsukumo have a good relationship, but there's no connection between Shiraishi and Minato. Even if they knew each other, they only heard each other's names by chance. They were nodding acquaintances, not even ordinary friends. He's powerful. Shiraishi, who was leaning against a big tree, was frowning and contemplating the matter of natural energy, when Ruri suddenly said this. What? Shiraishi finished thinking and raised his head subconsciously. This guy has no flaws in his body. Even when he is resting, he chooses terrain that is easy to defend and difficult to attack, and he judged it at the first time. It can be seen that his analytical skills are also first class. Facing Tsukumo-sensei, he didn't appear to be arrogant or impetuous, and was not overwhelmed by Tsukumo's aura. He was very confident in his own strength. Shiraishi understood who Ruri was talking about. It was Namake's Minato on the other side. Shiraishi nodded in agreement with Ruri's evaluation. How can a ninja who can be brought by Sannin be so simple? What's more, at the academy, the other party had already been famous, and is a well-known genius. According to Shiraishi's estimation, Minato's current strength is likely to have reached the level of Joinin. But compared to you, Ruri, it should be a little worse, Ain said with a smile. Ruri's strength in Tsukumo's team is second only to that of the leader, Tsukumo. In addition to the excellent Kekkai Genkai of the Uchiha clan, it is generally difficult for Jonin to defeat Ruri. This kind of thing can only be known after one fight. Although Ruri was proud, she felt that Minato, who could follow Sannin, was not comparable to a normal Jonin. However, Ruri is also very confident in her own strength, especially after she has mastered natural energy. Her physical skills alone will be a problem for high-level ninjas. What's more, in the battle, you should always pay attention to her Sharingan. Overall, if a battle does occur, Ruri doesn't think that she has the possibility of losing. But it is also a fact that the opponent's strength is not bad. If the situation allows, she really want to try it out, but there wasn't an appropriate place. So she had to restrain herself. Okay, it's almost time for patrol. Shiraishi got up and ended the topic about Minato. Even though the last mission annihilated an elite unit of Suna, there has been no news of the destruction in the Land of Fire recently, but it cannot be relaxed. As long as you leave the village to perform tasks, you must pay 200% attention to prevent accidents from happening. The patrol mission of Team Tsukumo has always been a team of 2. Shiraishi and Ain were in charge of the first half of the night, while Ruri and Tsukumo were in charge of the second half of the night. Now that the sky is almost dark, Shiraishi and Ain have also started their patrol work in the first half of the night, to check around to see if there are any enemies lurking. Nodding at Ruri, Shiraishi and Ain disappeared from the spot and started patrol work. Ruri glanced at the backs of the 2 and said nothing. The task of patrolling is relatively simple for Shiraishi's group. After all, there is Ain's Byakugan. Within a radius of 5 kilometers, as long as there is an enemy approaching here, there will be nowhere to hide in the white eyes. Although it cannot be compared with Perception Ninja in terms of range, Perception Ninjutsu can only determine the distance, direction, and number of targets, while Byakugan's omnidirectional monitoring ability can know what moves the enemy uses to attack, and what means they need to use. Take advantage of the enemy and quickly suppress the enemy's morale. It is precisely because of Byakugan's credit that Konoha can avoid the traps carefully designed by the enemy in every war, making any conspiracy and tricks of the enemy invalid. It's almost here. In another forest, Shiraishi stopped. Ain has rolled her eyes. As long as anyone approaches here, she will be discovered by her. Next, they only need to circle around regularly to complete the patrol mission in the first half of the night. Shiraishi took out a note from the book and put it in Ain's hand. Aine tilted her head incomprehensibly, but she still held it in her hand, looked left and right, found nothing abnormal, and opened the note. It says, "Are there toads around?" Toad? Aine didn't quite understand why Shiraishi asked such a question, so she just shook her head slightly. There are quite a few insects around, but the closest toad is more than 100 meters away from here, and it is still in the river. It looks like there are no toads. Yes, there are no traces of toads around. But why should Shiraishi-kun pay special attention to toads? Aine blinked and asked her doubts. That's because a lot of toads suddenly appeared in Konoha village recently, and I'm worried that someone is using them for espionage. Using toads for espionage? Yes, it's highly likely that Jiraiya Jonin, one of the 3 Sannin, is involved. I heard he formed a summoning contract with the toads from T-Mount Myaboku. Toads are inconspicuous creatures, making them perfect for collecting information unnoticed by others, don't you think? That's why Ruri focuses on training cats, as she suspects that others might be using toads for information gathering. Are you looking for something? Aine appeared thoughtful. It's not very clear, but it might be for surveillance purposes. Anyway, the toad matter doesn't directly concern us. We just need to be vigilant when sharing information in the future. That's true, indeed. Aine nodded in understanding. There are no signs of anything abnormal around them, and there is no umbu monitoring, indicating that their secret has not been exposed. It's best not to overreact or draw unnecessary attention. Even if something unexpected were to happen, they should stick to their usual routine. By the way, there's another troublesome thing I need to tell you. Shiraishi scratched his head, sighing with a sense of helplessness, struggling to find the right words. Troublesome? What is it? It's about Ruri. Shiraishi's gaze shifted awkwardly. Aine immediately caught on to his implication. Shouldn't it be? As you suspect, our secret relationship has been revealed. So from now on, when the 3 of us are together, I won't need to hide my strength. I'll fight at full power. Shiraishi continued to scratch his head, sensing that the situation was becoming more complicated. Due to Ruri's response to the situation, he couldn't deduce any useful information. But it was all right. In the future, when they act together, he won't need to conceal his abilities anymore. Perhaps, this would be a better way to complete their missions. After that, as long as Ruri and Aine received credit, he could still remain as an inconspicuous individual. After all, safety must come first. That's how it is. Aine lowered her head slightly, ensuring no one could read her expression. She refrained from asking why it got exposed, because such a question would be meaningless. Moving forward, they just needed to relax and cooperate with one another. Still, she couldn't help feeling a bit reluctant. After all, she was the first one to learn about Shiraishi-kun's true secret, right? Aine couldn't help but feel a tad bit worried. Are you all right? Shiraishi asked, concerned that Aine might be overthinking things. I'm fine. Actually, I think Shiraishi-kun should have confessed to Ruri earlier. Aine raised her head, offering a smile. She had managed to sort out her feelings of disappointment and hid them well. Whatever thoughts were swirling in her mind, she kept to herself. Shiraishi couldn't read anything from Aine's cheerful expression, but he realized how much she had grown compared to before. To avoid any awkwardness, it was better to conclude this topic swiftly. Continuing the discussion in front of a woman about another woman seemed like a recipe for disaster. With that, Shiraishi gave Aine the natural energy training method and the supplementary medicine, encouraging her to freely use natural energy as soon as possible. Among the 3 of them, Aine would probably benefit the most from natural energy. As a member of the Hyuga clan, her primary fighting style was taijutsu, the gentle fist technique, which she combined with Byakugan. Shiraishi couldn't fully fathom how much Aine's gentle fist's power would increase after mastering natural energy, but the benefits she reaped were likely to surpass his and Ruri's. He eagerly anticipated witnessing Aine's growth with the power of natural energy and soft fist. Instead of starting her training right away, Aine joined Shiraishi for a patrol around the area. No problems arose during the first half of the night's patrol. However, since Jiraiya's team was also involved in patrolling, the night patrol was divided into 3 shifts. As a result, Shiraishi and Aine completed their patrol mission 2 hours earlier than usual and returned to the camp to rest. The night passed uneventfully. In the early morning of the second day, the group of 6 set off once again. They traveled all day, and as evening approached, they finally arrived at the border area between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rivers. This was the general base of Konoha's attack against Suna. More than 2,000 Konoha ninjas were stationed here, and the commander was Orochimaru, the same rank as Jiraiya, with Tsunade as the deputy commander, supporting Orochimaru. Despite the strong presence of Konoha ninjas, the battle situation on the front line was still intense and should not be underestimated. After passing through a strict inspection, the Konoha ninjas guarding the camp allowed them to enter. Once inside the camp, Shiraishi noticed a heavy and somber atmosphere, in stark contrast to the liveliness of Konoha. Paramedics carried the wounded on stretchers, while groups of ninjas gathered near tents, holding simple hot food with blank expressions, eating with little enthusiasm. Many of them couldn't stomach the food and ended up vomiting, clutching their chests, and seeking relief from water. Passing through the medical area, painful screams of injured ninjas emanated from the tents. Tensions were high, as the slightest trigger could ignite the pent-up negative emotions in their hearts, leading to mental breakdowns. This was the reality of war. Tsukumo and Jiraiya needed to meet with Commander Orochimaru, leaving Shiraishi and Minato waiting outside the camp. Fortunately, the wait wasn't long. After a few minutes, Tsukumo emerged from the tent, holding an additional scroll that contained the tasks assigned to his team. Let's go. Yes. With limited time, Tsukumo planned to explain the mission to Shiraishi and the others while they were on the move. Then, they bid farewell to Minato, and Tsukumo's team departed, leaving the camp behind. Now, we'll divide our troops into 2 groups, and our task is to cut off Suna's supply line. Without wasting time, Tsukumo halted their progress a few kilometers away from Konoha's camp and briefly explained the mission. Is it just the 3 of us? The trio of Shiraishi was taken aback. There will be Umbu to assist along the way. However, this mission is of great importance, and we cannot risk any leaks. So, if you encounter anyone who isn't one of our own on the way, kill them all. Tsukumo's demeanor turned stern, and Shiraishi felt a chill down his spine. Suna village's supply line could not be left intact within the Land of Fire, so they had to venture into the Land of River to cut it off. This meant that even if they encountered ordinary people in the Land of River, they had to eliminate them to prevent their mission from being compromised. From this direction, about 15 kilometers away, you'll find a team of Umbu. Tsukumo pointed southwest. The 3 of them looked in the direction he indicated, and beyond that lay the region of the Land of Rivers, outside the Land of Fire. If you understand, let's get moving. Once Tsukumo finished speaking, he vanished in the opposite direction. The 3 of them exchanged glances, sensing the gravity of the situation. Not only were they tasked with a difficult mission of cutting off Suna's supply line, but they were also given a merciless order to eliminate all witnesses. Even with Umbu assistance, this mission was fraught with danger. Shiraishi let out a sigh and said, "Let's not worry too much. If the higher-ups assigned us this task, it means they believe we can accomplish it. Our priority now is to meet the Umbu." Indeed, while Tsukumo provided them with the mission's objectives, he didn't divulge the specific steps. It seemed that Tsukumo had his own mission and only revealed as much as he deemed necessary. To proceed further and cooperate with Umbu, the trio needed to rendezvous with the Umbu staff. Both Ruri and Iane agreed, so they acted promptly. In about 10 minutes, they arrived at the designated location, 15 kilometers southwest. As Tsukumo mentioned, there were Umbu ninjas from Konoha, 4 of them in total. However, something was amiss. The masks they wore were slightly different from the ones Shiraishi had seen before. The mask patterns exuded a sense of depression and gloom. Especially their eyes behind the masks, cold and emotionless, like machines. "You are. We are members of Umbu's route. We'll be collaborating with you to carry out the task of cutting off Suna's supply line." The leader stepped forward and addressed the 3 of Shiraishi indifferently. "Route?" The 3 of Shiraishi were puzzled, but the leader didn't explain further. He continued in a detached tone, "Your team will be responsible for feinting and distracting the enemy, while we will handle the destruction." With that, he and the other 3 ninjas lifted their shirts, revealing numerous detonating tags affixed to their bodies. "We'll also have detonators on ourselves. So once the feint is successful, make sure to find a way to leave the battlefield quickly. These detonating tags are powerful, and if you die, don't blame us for not warning you." It became clear that, in this mission, they had to be more vigilant of their own allies than of the enemy. Who in their right mind would stick exploding tags on their bodies, ready to blow up at any moment? They were dealing with a group of fanatics. The 3 of Shiraishi felt a headache coming on. An urgent desire to distance themselves from these lunatics gripped them, fearing any misstep from these people that might turn them into living explosives. Episode 57. Deceptive Intel and Missions. The meeting with the route from Umbu concluded in less than 10 minutes. Afterward, these individuals once again went dormant. It was assumed that they would reconvene only when official action was underway, in order to confirm the readiness of both parties. Upon reaching a concealed spot within the grass, Shiraishi, Iane, and Ruri gathered in a circle. "By the way, what exactly is Umbu's route organization?" Does it exist as a separate entity within Umbu under Hokage's command? The Umbu was directly under the Hokage, and the Academy's curriculum contained specialized courses about it. This was mainly done to prevent future ninjas from misconceiving Umbu within the village as an enemy. To circumvent this awkward situation, all of Konoha's ninjas were made aware of this organization. Ninjas who entered Umbu were all elite. The main structure of Umbu consisted of 70 members, divided into 4 squads, each with 4 classes, and across the 4 squads, there were a total of 16 squad leaders. Furthermore, every squad leader's prowess was at the highest level. Their main function was to protect the Hokage and undertake various classified high-risk missions. In essence, they were the hidden defenders of Konoha. However, Shiraishi had never heard of Umbu's route, which led him to question the identities of those ninjas. Aine also shook her head. Umbu's affairs were veiled in secrecy. Most ninjas were aware of the organization's existence, as well as its structure and numbers. But details like who was part of it and the particular skills each Umbu member possessed were kept strictly confidential. Ruri furrowed her brows slightly, her hands crossed over her chest. After a moment of silence, she explained, "I've heard of Umbu's route before. An elder in the clan mentioned it to me once. It's said to be a specialized division directly under Umbu, and it operates even more covertly. Their motto is better to eliminate a false target than to let a true one go, and they silently safeguard Konoha from the shadows. They follow a kill first, question later approach? Would Hokage-sama condone such a thing?" Shiraishi found this puzzling. Such an operation could severely damage the high-ranking official's reputation, led by Hokage, if it ever came to light. Even with Umbu, there was a phase of interrogation to ascertain whether a captured individual was friend or foe. Members of Umbu's root division, however, bypassed this process. They eliminated anyone they subjectively deemed a threat. Improperly managed, this organization could easily tarnish the ruling authority's prestige, possibly resulting in forced resignations. Such actions must be tacitly approved. Without that, root wouldn't have grown within the framework of Umbu. These ninjas have no names, no emotions, no past, and no future. They are driven solely by their mission, Ruri clarified. After listening to Ruri, Shiraishi and Aine recalled this mission. The root members planned to detonate their own bodies to destroy the Suna ninja supply point. This strategy did indeed align with their mentality. Their existence was defined by their mission. Means and sacrifices were secondary concerns, to be addressed after the mission or possibly not at all. These individuals are truly fearsome, Shiraishi sighed. Regardless of the era, those who were willing to give up their lives to accomplish a goal were undeniably frightening. Without the pitch-black darkness, the serene and beautiful lake wouldn't exist. In every era, silent operatives like these were indispensable. Let's move on to the task at hand. What are your thoughts on this mission? Ruri unfurled the map provided by the route and laid it out on the ground. It was a comprehensive map of the land of rivers, detailing various locations along with distance and environmental information. Ruri pointed to an area within the land of rivers where the Suna supply point was situated. This was also the spot that Shiraishi and the others were to attack. Surveying the map, Shiraishi began, "The supply point is in close proximity to Suna's camp. According to the marked distance, we have only about 10 minutes after creating a large-scale disturbance with a diversionary attack. Within this timeframe, we must finish our task and exit the battlefield safely. Given our current strength, it's a tall order." The plan's division of labor was clear. Shiraishi and the team were to serve as the diversion, creating maximum chaos. Once that was accomplished, they would withdraw quickly. Meanwhile, Root would intervene and detonate their explosives, obliterating all the supplies at the Suna supply point and completing the mission. The challenge lay in inciting a large-scale disturbance in just 10 minutes, capturing the Suna's attention, and providing a secure attack window for the Root ninjas. Subsequently, they had to evacuate swiftly to evade the explosives. However you look at it, 10 minutes is an incredibly short time, Aine agreed, concurring with Shiraishi. It was highly likely that the Suna ninjas guarding the Land of River supply point were numerous, including several Jonin-level fighters. The area being so crucial, there might even be over a dozen Jonin. Apart from Jonin, there would also be a considerable number of Chunin. Under such heavily fortified circumstances, completing the diversion in 10 minutes was theoretically implausible. Once a commotion is initiated, I can use a large-scale fire-release jutsu. Since the supplies are of great importance, Suna will refrain from using extensive ninjutsu, making it a favorable setting for us. However, extricating ourselves from Suna's encirclement won't be simple. I recall you prepared quite a few useful tools before embarking on this mission, Ruri observed, casting a glance at Shiraishi. I didn't anticipate needing them so soon, Shiraishi sighed, retrieving a scroll from his pouch. Unsealing it released a cloud of white smoke, revealing a collection of items. What are these? Ayan asked, intrigued as she picked up a projectile that resembled a smoke bomb. Highly toxic smoke bombs. They have an extended range and duration compared to ordinary ones, and I've also brought along the antidote. But what if the enemy disperses them with wind-style jutsu? That's not an issue. I can use the fire release technique. In the event the enemy uses wind release jutsu, my fire release will be reinforced and its range expanded. In this manner, wind-based jutsu couldn't be easily utilized, and the three of them could exploit the poisonous mist for the diversion and create chaos. After that, they'd have to contend with a horde of Suna ninjas on their trail and carefully strategize their escape. As night descended and the river valley region along the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rivers was enshrouded in darkness, chilly gusts of wind occasionally swept through the area. Let's discuss our escape strategy on the way. We must reach the mission site by midnight. We have less than 6 hours remaining, and time is of the essence. This mission relied heavily on the element of surprise, leaving them little time to craft elaborate countermeasures. The Suna supply point needed to be obliterated before it could be relocated. Once the opportunity passed, discerning the location of Suna's supply point would become an arduous task. In the heart of the night, silence blanketed the Konoha camp along the border of the Land of Fire, with not even the faintest chirping of insects. Inside a tent, the dim illumination from simple lights barely reached the center of the room, leaving the edges shrouded in darkness. Tsunade stood by a table, meticulously sorting through a pile of information. Given the gravity of the intelligence at hand, a thorough review was imperative. At that moment, a white-haired ninja entered the tent from outside. Tsunade, are you still at it? It's quite late, said the visitor, none other than Jiraiya, who, like Tsunade, was a prominent figure within Konoha. Upon entering, he greeted Tsunade with a smile. Ah, it's you, Jiraiya. Is something the matter? Tsunade glanced up at Jiraiya before returning her focus to the information spread before her. Her demeanor suggested she was in no mood for idle chatter. Observing Tsunade's demeanor, Jiraiya sighed softly and spoke, I regret the incident with Orochimaru. If I had been there. Had a conflict between Konoha and Suna arisen, he could have returned swiftly, potentially preventing the tragedy that befell Nawaki. However, the past could not be undone, and no amount of wishing could resurrect the fallen. Seeing Tsunade's smile wane, Jiraiya couldn't help but feel a mixture of concern and remorse. This is not your fault. Tsunade's voice turned chilly. Though Jiraiya's mention of Orochimaru and Nawaki caused a pang in Tsunade's heart, she quickly rallied, refusing to be disheartened by such matters. At present, the lives of countless Konoha ninjas rested on her shoulders, and she couldn't afford to display weakness. This was a moment when she must stand tall and resolute, showing strength that would not invite anyone to underestimate her. Jiraiya remained silent by her side, choosing not to contest Tsunade's statement. Now that you're here, just do your part and don't hinder my work. Tsunade's tone softened slightly, though her intention to focus on her tasks was evident. Jiraiya didn't utter a word, but a sense of lost purpose shadowed his expression. Wait. Tsunade halted him suddenly. What is it? Jiraiya inquired, perplexed. This mission to surprise attack the Suna supply point. It's assigned to the Sakumo team, right? Tsunade posed an unrelated question, capturing Jiraiya's attention. Yes, it's Sakumo's team. Given the mission's significance, and considering that only Sakumo is best suited for this task, the responsibility was assigned to his team, Jiraiya confirmed. The success of this operation, which aimed to sever Suna village's supply line, held substantial implications for the ongoing conflict. A flawless execution could weaken Suna's internal stability due to shortages, achieving a considerable advantage for Konoha with minimal sacrifice. This could potentially pave the way for peace talks between the two sides, ending a war that had raged on for over 2 years. However, failure would prolong the war's duration and consequences for both Konoha and the Land of Fire. Jiraiya held immense confidence in Sakumo's abilities, and this mission only solidified his conviction further. He wasn't alone in this. The village had already initiated preparations for peace negotiations between Konoha and Suna. Observing Tsunade's growing concern, Jiraiya's heart clenched, and he inquired urgently, what's wrong? The information provided contradicts the plan I devised with Orochimaru. Furthermore, this isn't the standard signaling method used by Umbu. Tsunade produced one of the many documents. Jiraiya's expression shifted upon hearing this. Jiraiya, when you received the information from Umbu in the village, were you certain no one tampered with it? Tsunade's brow furrowed as she regarded Jiraiya. Due to the mission's critical nature, Konoha's intelligence was entrusted to Jiraiya by Umbu, one of the village's 3 high-ranking ninjas. Jiraiya was then dispatched to the front lines to ensure the information's secure delivery. Impossible. I've been with Sakumo's team the whole way. There's no chance anyone could have interfered with the information. Jiraiya snatched the document from Tsunade's grasp and meticulously combed through its contents. His expression darkened with each line. What's going on? Why does the content here differ from what Sarutobi-sensei explained? Jiraiya's shoulders began to tremble, his disbelief evident as he scrutinized the information before him. It seems you've been deceived. As no issues arose during transport, there's only one possibility. The Umbu who passed you the information aren't under Sarutobi-sensei's command. Tsunade's words were like a bolt from the blue, causing Jiraiya's body to stiffen, cold sweat forming on his forehead. This was dire news. Not only did it jeopardize the mission's success, but if he had unknowingly fallen into enemy hands, the consequences for the Sakumo team could be catastrophic. No, I need to save them. Jiraiya, too, was drenched in sweat, dashing out of the tent without a moment's hesitation. Wait, Jiraiya. Don't act hastily. Even if you rush over. But as Tsunade gave chase, Jiraiya had already vanished into the enveloping darkness, leaving her helpless and staring at the tent's entrance. This fool. Charging in like that could make him an easy target for an enemy ambush, Tsunade muttered under her breath, though she could only watch, her frustration noticeable. Episode 58. Roots Trap. Deep in the dark and chilly forest, the clock had already struck 1 in the morning, and the trio pressed on towards their target. Bathed in the pale moonlight, one could discern a complex network of wires spanning between the colossal trees, forming an impenetrable web, awaiting its prey. While it might seem logical to begin an assault from a safer angle, this proved to be the point of least resistance. The vital Suna supply point lay further ahead, rendering a noiseless intrusion virtually impossible. Moreover, such a pivotal location would undoubtedly be under the watchful eye of a sensory ninja, quite possibly exposing their presence. Upon severing the steel wire web, a barrage of kunai and shuriken rained down from the inky night sky. Some of the kunai were adorned with explosive tags, their fiery tails casting an eerie glow. Boom! Boom! The incessant bombardment battered at eardrums, the earth quaked beneath the onslaught, and the once serene night was consumed by roaring flames as trees ignited. Yet, this very fact underscored the importance of the supply point. Such an elaborate defensive trap wouldn't exist were it not a crucial asset for Sunagakure. Even the untrained eye would discern its significance, unable to breach it without triggering some reaction. Here they come. 11 from the west, 9 from the south, and 17 at the rear, Ayin reported calmly, her Byakugan granting her a clear view of the approaching ninja force, 37 in total. The majority were Chunin, interspersed with a handful of Jounin, each commanding their respective teams. Start taking the antidote, Shiraishi instructed, popping a white pill into his mouth, soon followed by Ruri and Ayin, both consuming the antidote as well. Subsequently, Shiraishi retrieved 2 smoke bombs from his pouch and deployed them into the forest, cloaking the area in a haze of gray mist. Though ineffective against sensory ninjas, the smoke could potentially disorient other foes, plunging them into disarray. Curses, this smoke is poisonous. Clear out, quick. The disciplined sand-hidden ninjas infiltrated the misty zone but quickly recognized something was amiss. Their bodies grew weak, breathing turned labored, and a suffocating agony enveloped them. Some with lower resistance to poison collapsed, writhing in pain. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Ruri's hands wove a series of seals, and a chakra that was far larger than the fireball technique accumulated in her mouth, and she released it all in one breath. Under the raging inferno, the night blazed crimson, the once frosty air now simmering, its heat rendering skin as hot as boiling water. 3 silhouettes dashed through the flames, certain that these theatrics wouldn't go unnoticed by the Suna ninja at the supply point. Ruri's vast fire release covered extensive terrain, and with countless combustible trees, a wind release user would only exacerbate the fire's intensity, making these flames beyond comparison from the standard fire release jutsus. The fire required water release jutsu to douse, a nutch not mastered by the ninjas, and considering its vast expanse, only an extensive effort could extinguish it, a process far from swift. With only 10 minutes of maneuverability, the diversion seemed effective, though gauging the attention garnered from Suna proved uncertain. Regardless, Shiraishi's trio was committed to completing their task to the best of their ability. Upon the mission's culmination, successful or not, their priority would shift to extracting themselves from the battlefield. Within the searing forest, agonized screams echoed, the Suna hidden forces encountering Shiraishi's team swiftly met their end. Kunai twirling in his hand, Shiraishi dispatched an oncoming ninja, swiftly severing their carotid artery. Vacuum palm. Ayin's swift hand thrust forth, releasing a chakra shockwave akin to an air cannon. The unsuspecting ninja behind her crumpled, vomiting blood, thrown into a tree. This technique, derived from the Hyuga clan's Byakugan, was an unseen, colorless ranged assault, baffling to the naked eye. Unperceptive ninjas would struggle to evade it, defenseless against its invisible trajectory. This long-range technique had been a reward for Aien's prior mission. Negotiations between Hokage and the Hyuga clan had resulted in Aien receiving further training in their closely guarded secret techniques of gentle fist. 8 trigrams, vacuum palm, was one such technique. In the present operation, Shiraishi and Aien spearheaded the supply point assault against Suna. Ruri's role was to accumulate chakra and unleash a torrent of fire ninjutsu, amplifying the destruction and drawing attention from the Suna ninja. Her conflagration would create an opening for Umbu operatives to infiltrate the local supply point. A sweeping tide of roaring flames surged outward, merging the searing heat. The ferocious blaze swept away the frigid forest air. Traces of devastation from the inferno marred the surroundings. However, the cost was steep. The repeated use of high-level fire-release jutsu had drained Ruri's chakra reserves rapidly. It was anticipated that only a few more such intense techniques would leave her chakra reserves depleted. Recognizing the dire situation, Ruri swiftly closed her eyes. The riot here has almost reached its peak, and she still needs to move forward for a while to try to further expand the scale of the riot. As they ventured deeper into Suna territory, they approached a stream preceding the supply point. Across the stream, there were a large number of tents stationed, surrounded by tall trees that could be used to shelter the camp. A fire broke out in the opposite forest, which had already aroused the alertness of the Sandy ninjas here. Under the effective command of the Jounin, the Sandy ninjas who were waiting here were not at all chaotic, and they were not worried because of the fierce attack of the enemy. Could it be Konoha's ninja? Why attack here? Have they stumbled upon the secret weapon? Pondered a Suna Jounin with furrowed brows. If that's the case, we're in a tight spot. We can't afford any negligence, especially under watchful eye. Whatever the situation, we mustn't leak the use of the tailed beast weapons. And Konoha will be caught off guard. The eyes of the Jounin glinted murderously, determined to eradicate the Konoha invaders without leaving any trace. Across the riverbank, Aien suddenly jolted and halted in her tracks. Observing Aien's reaction, Shiraishi and Ruri came to a standstill as well. What's the matter? With Aien's Byakugan as their sole guide, Shiraishi and Ruri were like lost travelers, wandering aimlessly. Something's amiss. I can't locate the warehouse storing the supplies. This isn't a Suna supply point. Aien's complexion turned pale, she grasped the gravity of the situation. Sakumo had emphasized the mission's primary goal, to cut off the Suna supply point, requiring cooperation with Umbu. Although the ninja who identified as Root was an Umbu subgroup, they shared a similar understanding of the mission, engendering trust among Shiraishi's trio. However, Aien's survey of the land unveiled a troubling reality. This so-called supply point had no warehouses storing provisions. Instead, it was heavily guarded by Suna ninjas, and nothing more. No warehouses, no supplies, nothing that would constitute a supply point. Aien's conclusion was unequivocal. Shiraishi and Ruri's expressions darkened upon hearing Aien's findings. They had been deceived. The realization struck like a blow. Move. Shiraishi's instincts kicked in, mission or not, they deserved an explanation. Faced with deceit, Shiraishi had no intention to continue. If the mission failed due to their inadequacy, he would humbly accept it, but if misinformation led to a mission's downfall, they had no obligation to persist. The trio hastened their retreat, yet at that moment, the Suna ninjas had positioned themselves, sealing off any escape routes, forming a large airtight net to surround the three of them. On a distant cliff summit, 4 Root ninjas stood or sat, silhouetted by the moonlight as they looked down indifferently upon the chaos and flames below. They're capable enough. It's no surprise Danzo-sama wants to eliminate that Uchiha prodigy, allowing her to grow up poses a significant threat. In the end, the Uchiha are inherently untrustworthy. Such a shame for the Byakugan and the medical ninja. It's unavoidable, but if the evil Uchiha can be eliminated, the two of them should know that they died well. By doing so, White Fan will carry the stain of an incapable leader, failing to protect his subordinates. The upcoming Hokage will be Danzo-sama. Only he can guide Konoha to a stronger path. The 4 conversed in a fervent manner, unwavering in their faith towards Danzo-sama. Initially, according to the plan, they were supposed to start a suicide raid on the Suna camp from here, but now they're just watching here as bystanders, completely ignoring their own village. The ninjas are surrounded by the enemy, and they were indifferent. Are you leaving now? There's not much to see, one remarked. Wait. Though I doubt their ability to break free, in case they miraculously escape, we'll eliminate any survivors. We mustn't leave a trace, as ordered by Danzo-sama. Episode 59. One Tails Rampage. As numerous Suna ninjas encircled them, the trio began to experience brief emotional fluctuations. However, they quickly suppressed these emotions. With the situation at hand, panicking would only worsen their predicament. Aine, how many enemies are there in total? Shiraishi inquired, tilting his head. Counting the Suna ninjas who haven't engaged, there are 176 of them. Presently, 103 Suna ninjas are attacking us. This Suna base wasn't expansive, allowing Aine to easily assess the numbers and positions of their adversaries. 103, meaning each of us has to face around 34 opponents on average. This is a significant challenge. Moreover, Ruri had nearly depleted her chakra during her earlier uproar, and currently, she had only about half left. Against ordinary adversaries, her remaining chakra would suffice. However, facing this many Suna ninjas, including several jonin, it appeared an insurmountable odds. In the upcoming battle, let's conserve our chakra as much as possible and rely on natural energy for combat, Shiraishi suggested to Ruri. Ruri nodded, having the same thought. In comparison to the finite chakra, natural energy seemed a more inexhaustible resource to use in this dire situation, reserving the chakra for crucial moments. Now, we'll change our tactics. Aine, you'll focus on scouting a way out using your eyes, while Ruri and I will handle the combat. We'll pinpoint the weakest point and break through. Initially, Ruri's fire release technique had served to protect her and prevent distractions during their prior commotion. However, now, they would rely on Aine's Byakugan for scouting, while Shiraishi and Ruri concentrated on defense. I'll do my best, Aine affirmed, her expression serious. This multitude of ninjas posed a considerable challenge for Aine's eyes. Let's discuss our strategy later, escaping is our immediate priority. If there are no objections, let's proceed. The intelligence lapse, the anger, and the bad mood, these feelings afflicted not only Ruri and Aine but also Shiraishi. Yet, rationality should prevail over fury during this situation. They must plan logically to ensure a successful escape. Whether the village intentionally baited them or there was a glitch within Root's actions, they had fallen into a trap. Follow me. Aine wasted no time. Their lives were at stake, and they had to find the best escape route. Shiraishi and Ruri trailed her. Simultaneously, they suppressed the chakra movement within them, instead, focusing on absorbing natural energy from the surroundings. Since natural energy varied in different locations, affecting its absorption rate, they had to take advantage of the abundant natural energy in the forest. Within seconds, Shiraishi and Ruri were replenished with natural energy. This influx brought an extraordinary lightness to their bodies, making them capable of feats like punching the ground. However, now was not the time to relish newfound strength. Faced with elite ninjas, they had to remain cautious. Their gratitude extended to Aine's Byakugan. Thanks to her early detection of the fake supply point, they could thwart a potential trap and escape. Before the Suna ninjas could seal the encirclement, Aine had pinpointed the weakest escape route. Only 29 Suna ninjas guarded this section, a lesser number than the rest. Clang! Clang! Shiraishi deflected incoming kunai with his kunai, engaging 2 Suna ninjas in battle. In the darkness of the forest, only rapid movements were visible, accompanied by sparks as kunai clashed. Realizing Shiraishi's strength, the 2 Suna ninjas were pained after just a brief clash, struggling to maintain their hold on their kunai due to the pain. Taking advantage of their vulnerable state, Ruri, who was positioned at the rear, swiftly approached and executed precise strikes, dispatching the Suna ninjas. Due to their quick maneuvers and aversion to prolonged combat, they dealt with the obstacles efficiently. Wind release, gale palm. A powerful gust swept from behind, carrying a flurry of kunai and shuriken. The storm's influence heightened the projectile's speed and penetration. Ruri, fortified by natural energy, deflected the oncoming projectiles with ease. Kaboom! However, some kunai carried detonating tags. The explosion sent Ruri hurtling through the air, her landing on a branch requiring considerable effort as her face turned pale. Don't let them escape. Eliminate these Konoha ninjas. All around, the air was filled with the sounds of movement and shouts of battle, coming from every direction. Among this group of Suna ninjas, there were skilled sensory ninjas. No matter which direction Shiraishi and the others tried to break free in, there were always Suna ninjas hot on their trail. Moreover, the number of ninjas was growing, and the ones blocking their path were all elite warriors. They were determined to delay Shiraishi and his companions, buying time for reinforcements to arrive. Let's avoid unnecessary combat. Shiraishi noted, seeing the frustrated expression on Ruri's face. He understood her desire to fight back against this group of Suna ninjas, considering the provocation they had endured. However, this wasn't the moment for recklessness. Even with their enhanced natural energy, they weren't invincible. Trapped in the midst of numerous Suna ninjas, fighting them all was a losing battle. Understood. Don't give me orders, Ruri retorted, her irritation fueled by the detonating tag's recent explosion. The blast had rattled her and kindled her determination to fight. I don't want to do this either, Shiraishi sighed inwardly. This pack of ninjas was like rabid dogs, chasing and biting. Was it really worth the effort for these non-essential supply points? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. Shiraishi, Aine, and Ruri felt a chill run through their bodies, struggling to maintain their balance as the earth shook. The pursuing ninjas were also taken aback. They hadn't anticipated the sudden earthquake, which left them unsteady on their feet. Wait, that's... Damn it, is that monster going berserk? These Suna ninjas seemed to possess some knowledge about the situation, their voices laced with fear and confusion. It was a reaction driven by sheer terror. Rumble. The intense tremors continued to shake the ground. Everyone was left bewildered by the unfolding events. What's happening? Shiraishi sensed the unnaturally violent vibrations, which seemed to exceed the limits of human capabilities. Simultaneously, a monstrous roar resonated, followed by a chilling and malevolent chakra presence in the air. It sent shivers down their spines, a weight pressing on their chests, making it difficult to breathe. Shiraishi was awestruck by the immense chakra. Despite the apparent distance, its origin seemed far away, yet it managed to permeate the atmospheric barrier and reach them. This extraordinary chakra exceeded the realm of comprehension for normal individuals. As the earth continued to tremble, deep cracks started to snake across the ground. Trees in the forest swayed, and a violent hurricane churned in the distance. Escaping was nearly impossible in these conditions. Shiraishi clung to a nearby tree, employing chakra to maintain his balance. Ruri and Aine followed suit, grabbing onto solid objects to stabilize themselves. Cold sweat streamed down the faces of the pursuing ninjas. They too were caught off guard by the overwhelming chakra. After the tremor subsided, just as everyone began to heave a sigh of relief, an enormous black shape emerged from the distant forest. It loomed like an insurmountable mountain, sending panic through the crowd. With its appearance, the sound of screams filled the air. The storm intensified, heavy chakra blanketing the atmosphere. This chakra felt distinct from ordinary chakra, emanating an icy chill and an aura of danger. One tail. The one tail has emerged. Is that monster completely uncontrollable? Damn it, I thought it was safe. Did the ninja from Konoha do something? Curse it. Though Shiraishi didn't fully understand what one tail was, he could sense the panicked responses from the Suna ninjas. It was clear that this unexpected turn of events had thrown them into chaos. Tonight, their actions were limited to starting a fire. How could they have released this enigmatic monster? In truth, the origin of this huge monster itself was highly suspicious. For the first time, Shiraishi's understanding of the ninja profession wavered. While Ruri's fire release ninjutsu was already an impressive high-level technique, capable of igniting entire forests, it paled in comparison to the potential destruction wrought by this unidentified giant creature. Ha 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 ha, I'm back. The monster bellowed with laughter, a mix of elation and a desire to obliterate everything. Standing like a huge fortress amidst the forest, its presence dwarfed that of any human. The creature exuded an aura of violence and devastation. A casual flick of its sandy yellow tail resulted in the decimation of a forest. Its movements stirred up violent storms, toppling trees and causing the earth to quake. Over a dozen Suna ninjas were caught in the chaos, their screams adding to the terror. A stunned silence fell over the scene. Episode 60. Tailed Beast Chakra. After a while, the monstrous creature roared and turned, exposing its terrifying form to all present. In its eyes, humans appeared as insignificant and feeble as ants. Its body was bloated, covered in violet curse lines arranged in a chaotic pattern. You wretched human insects. How dare you sail me for so long? I'm going to destroy you all. This creature, referred to as One Tail by the Sunanines, possessed an exceedingly loud voice, accompanied by an acutely piercing quality that could cause discomfort like a knife being thrust into one's ear. Wind Release Gale Bomb. A substantial amount of chakra began accumulating within its maw, and it commenced releasing enormous typhoon-like bursts in a fan-shaped spread, sweeping away everything in its path including the forest trees and adversaries. An intense explosion resounded through the air. Both its power and range surpassed that of an average ninja's techniques. At this juncture, Sunanines, Shiraishi, and the others ceased their combat, opting instead to seek cover and evade the fearsome typhoon onslaught. Who? Are the two of you unharmed? Shiraishi clasped his shoulder, where his attire had been inadvertently grazed by the wind blades dispersed by the wind spheres, revealing a grievous, bleeding wound. Truthfully, situations like these were incredibly vexing. Misfortunes seemed to be occurring one after the other. What had ostensibly been a routine mission to destroy supply points was now hampered and necessitated a premature retreat due to faulty information. As a result, facing this rampant behemoth, Shiraishi was at a loss for words. Presently, the paramount concern for Suna Shinobi was avoiding becoming ensnared within the creature's sweeping attacks. Fortunately, the chakra of this creature feels rather ominous. It's the most powerful chakra I've ever encountered. It's difficult to fathom such an entity existing within the ninja world. Ayin inhaled sharply. Her Byakugan allowed her to directly perceive the terrifying nature of chakra emanating from the creature known as One Tail. Among those she was acquainted with, Ruri already possessed formidable chakra as a ninja. Yet, when they were exposed with this creature, they realized their chakra levels were leagues apart. Of course, it's Suna's tailed beast weapon. I never expected Suna to deploy such a thing onto the battlefield. We must retreat quickly. Ruri appeared to possess some knowledge, her expression assuming a solemn expression. A tailed beast? Shiraishi raised an eyebrow. He had come across mentions of it in various documents, but this was his first encounter with the actual entity. It was said to be a creatures ranging from 1 tail to 9 tails from ancient times, referred to as a tailed beasts by ninjas. Their origin remained unknown, only their existence since ancient times and their extensive lifespans were known. Each tailed beast boasted a reservoir of chakra beyond a ninja's comprehension, capable of causing tremors with the slightest movement. Dealing with such a creature, even when suppressed through sealing techniques, demanded significant sacrifices. Truly a fearsome entity. It instilled a greater sense of dread than what Shiraishi had gleaned from books. The trio took refuge behind a boulder, defiantly facing the storm head-on. Their surface was already marred by numerous marks, like countless blades carving into them. Sensing the oppressive atmosphere and the ceaseless tempest, Shiraishi massaged his throbbing temples. It wasn't so much that the current situation was more perilous than before, the monster's rampage had compelled the Suna to halt their pursuit and turn their attention to the One Tail. However, the predicament lay in One Tail's wide-range attacks ensnaring the trio. Wait a moment. Ayin suddenly perceived something through her Byakugan. What's amiss? Quickly. Ayin lacked the time to elaborate, merely urging Shiraishi and Ruri to move swiftly. Shiraishi and Ruri dared not linger. Ayin must have discerned something, otherwise, her urgency wouldn't be so palpable. Indeed, the chakra permeating the air grew increasingly intense. The white section of its eye turned obsidian, while the pupil assumed a sandy hue, Shikaku's penetrating gaze. The gaze was as sharp as a knife's edge, with exaggeratedly parted lips that revealed a perilous and cunning grin. It tore open its gaping maw, and chakra began converging before its visage. After each chakra sphere merged, it morphed into a substantial black chakra sphere. A mystic lavender halo surrounded the outer layer of the black chakra sphere. Resembling a colossal black gem radiating purple luminescence, it formed a perfectly spherical shape. The atmosphere stagnated, frigid tendrils penetrating the skin, inducing an unsettling trepidation. Just as it was poised to launch, a heavy blow caused its bloated form to stagger, and the purple-hued black sphere soared skyward in a parabolic trajectory. Despite its parabolic trajectory, the black sphere's velocity was formidable, like a fleeting gust of wind. The trio, proceeding in the opposite direction of the encampment, lifted their heads, observing the enormous black sphere soaring above them and vanishing into the distance. Light illuminated everything. Figures, trees, and the earth all vanished from view. The trio reflexively shut their eyes against the intense brilliance of the explosion. An eerie silence prevailed for several seconds, disrupted by a resounding boom. The forest quaked, the riverbed crumbled, creating an abrupt precipice ahead. A tsunami-like wave of dust rolled in. The expanse spanning kilometers transformed into a colossal crater, devoid of vegetation. Cough, cough. Shiraishi rose from the soil, his body caked in dust, his expression one of embarrassment. He suddenly noticed Ayin and Ruri also emerging from the soil, their appearances mirroring his embarrassment. Their sleeves and thighs showed signs of wear, stained with numerous blood spots. Their injuries appeared quite severe, and it was astounding that these injuries had been inflicted outside the blast range. Had the chakra ball landed even slightly closer to their position, it was likely they would have been instantly obliterated. Shiraishi shook his head and gave his ear a pat, trying to clear the dust that had settled inside. Was this still a battle among ninjas? As they gazed at the devastated landscape before them, Shiraishi and his companions couldn't help but entertain such a thought. In any case, the notion of instantly sinking such a large area of land seemed utterly excessive. If the chakra ball were to be repeatedly deployed, it didn't matter how formidable the ninja force was, it wouldn't be enough to counter this monstrous slaughter. Right up ahead. Stop them, don't let them escape from here. Footsteps accompanied by fleeting shadows sounded from behind. Scarcely had they recovered from the shock of one-tailed beast's devastating power when a realization struck. The Suna ninjas displayed an unwavering determination, unwilling to permit their escape at this critical moment. Was it possible that they sought to prevent the revelation of these events? Indeed, a weapon of such extraordinary power couldn't be allowed to fall into enemy hands, potentially leading to a surprise attack. Moreover, given the upheaval caused by the one-tail rampage, the Suna ninjas were resolute in preventing Shiraishi and his companions from fleeing. The exposure of this information might undermine their meticulously laid plans. With the Suna nins in hot pursuit, Shiraishi and the other two had no choice but to sprint in a straight line, aiming to vacate the battlefield with all possible speed. A silence hung over One Tail, whether due to renewed containment through the sealing technique or some other phenomenon, evading Shiraishi's understanding. Their primary objective remained evading the pursuit of the Suna ninja. As they traversed the barren terrain ravaged by Shoha's onslaught, clusters of dark chakra gas, accompanied by a lavender halo, hovered in the air, distinctly visible. Observing this, Shiraishi's thoughts were set in motion. An intuitive grasp of one-tail power settled upon him. This power had the potential to quicken anyone's heartbeat. Without hesitation, he retrieved a glass bottle from his ninja pouch, uncorking it, and began to collect the residual physical chakra that hadn't yet dissipated. After a brief interval, the chakra had been collected, and Shiraishi securely returned the glass bottle to his pouch, a satisfied smile playing across his features. Evidently, this endeavor hadn't been in vain. If circumstances allowed, he would have been inclined to delve further into this unique chakra, seeking a suitable location for further study. Such an investigation might yield invaluable insights.